Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really remarkable story from ancient texts. It's known as the Asadisadāna.
Right, which translates as the unparalleled offering.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
we've got the key text here that tell this specific story.
And it's so much more than just a story about giving. It's packed with these wild details, unexpected rivalries,
Yeah.
pretty dramatic consequences, and then this really profound teaching at the end. It really hits home.
Absolutely. So, our mission for this deep dive really is to walk through this whole incredible event. We want to understand the sheer scale of it, the king's generosity,
Mhm.
uncover some genuinely surprising twists, how it all unfolded.
And the reactions, too. Very different reactions.
Exactly. Explore those reactions it sparked and, maybe most importantly, get to grips with the Buddha's insight, the teaching he shared right at the end.
Yeah, get ready for some aha moments, I think. Some surprising facts in here.
Okay, so where does it all begin? Setting the scene.
Right, so the story kicks off with the Buddha returning to Jetavana. That's the famous monastery grove.
Uh-huh.
And he's not alone. He's got 500 monks with him, the Sangha, the whole community.
And the local ruler, King Pasenadi of Kosala, he hears the Buddha's back in town.
Instantly. And what does he do? He invites the Buddha and all 500 monks for an offering, like a meal the very next day.
But it's not just a quiet meal, is it?
No, not at all. He makes a point of inviting the ordinary citizens too. Basically tells them, come and see my offering. He wants everyone to witness his royal generosity.
Right, showing off a bit, maybe?
Yeah.
Establishing his position?
Could be. And that's exactly where this friendly rivalry starts.
So the citizens show up.
They do. They see the king's impressive offering. They take it all in. And then they respond.
How?
They invite the Buddha and the Sangha themselves for the next day.
Ah, okay.
And they send a message back to the king saying essentially, right, your majesty, we saw yours. Now please come and see ours.
Oh, wow. Okay, the gauntlet is thrown down. A challenge.
Pretty much. And the sources made it clear this wasn't just a one-off.
Yeah.
No, this back and forth, it escalated, it became this kind of generosity contest.
Yeah.
Went on for 6 rounds.
6 rounds. Goodness.
Yeah. The king gives, the citizens watch, then they try to top him the next day, inviting him back.
Yeah.
On and on. Neither side could quite, decisively win.
So by the 6th round, things must have been getting pretty extravagant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The citizens, by round 6, they just pull out all the stops. The text says they increase their offering like 100-fold, maybe even 1,000-fold compared to before.
Whoa.
It was so incredibly lavish.
Yeah.
So complete. Materially speaking, you just couldn't say anything was missing. It was their absolute peak effort.
So the king sees this like ultimate offering from his own people.
Yeah.
And how does he react?
He's completely floored. The texts say he's distressed, like actually lies down thinking.
Really?
Yeah, thinking, if I can't top this, what's the point?
Right.
What's the point of living? He's desperate, searching for an upaya, a strategy, a clever means, anything.
Wow. That's intense. Just over an offering.
Well, it clearly meant a lot in terms of status and perhaps devotion too.
Right. So who helps him out of this despair?
This is where Queen Malika comes in. She finds him like this, distressed, asks what's wrong.
And he tells her.
Yep, and she's brilliant. She
Yeah.
basically says, don't worry about it. A king, master of the earth. Whoever heard of a king being defeated by citizens like this?
Ah, good point.
And then she says, leave it to me, I'll arrange the offering. She promises something the citizens just cannot replicate.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's her plan? It must be something special.
Well, it is. It's almost fantastical. The sources detail it really vividly. First, they build this special seating pavilion inside a big circle, big enough for all 500 monks, with space outside too. Then, 500 pure white umbrellas.
Okay. White umbrellas, symbol of royalty.
Exactly. But here's the really wild part. They get 500 elephants.
Elephants.
500 elephants to stand there and hold these white umbrellas over the head of each monk.
You're kidding? I can't even picture that.
It's an incredible image, isn't it? But wait,
Well,
there's more. In the middle of this pavilion, they place 8 or 10 boats made of solid red gold
Gold boats, what for?
for perfumes. And get this, they bring in Kshatriya daughters, royal daughters, from the ruling class.
Okay.
Some were positioned between every pair of monks, grinding precious perfumes. Others stand nearby with fans, fanning every 2 monks.
Wow. A level of detail.
More daughters bring even more perfumes and put them in those gold boats. And then other daughters take bouquets of blue lotuses and stir the perfumes in the boats to make them incredibly fragrant.
It's just sensory overload, a complete spectacle.
Exactly. Designed for maximum impact, visual, aromatic, everything. And Malika knew why this would work.
Right, how could the citizens possibly match that?
That was her point. She explained it to the king. The citizens don't have access to Kshatriya daughters, or 500 white umbrellas, or 500 elephants.
Those are royal resources.
Precisely. Royal prerogatives. That's what makes this offering genuinely unparalleled, impossible for anyone else to replicate, socially and logistically.
So the king must have been thrilled.
Overjoyed.
Yeah.
Totally delighted with her ingenuity. He agrees immediately, gets everything set up exactly as she described.
Okay, so the grand day arrives. Does it go off without a hitch, or is there a twist?
Well, even with meticulous planning, there's a snag.
Oh.
The elephants. The source says something like, one elephant isn't sufficient for one monk.
What does that mean? Not enough elephants.
It seems like they didn't have 500 suitable elephants. They had 500 total, but maybe some weren't trained well enough for this specific delicate task of standing still near mumps.
Right, you need calm elephants for that.
Exactly. The king starts to panic a bit, goes back to Malika, what do we do? We're short on well-behaved elephants.
Okay.
Malika asks, don't we have 500? The king confirms, yes, but the others, they're unruly. The text calls them hahaithino, difficult, even vicious. They apparently get really fierce, like violent winds, it says, when they see monks.
That doesn't sound good for holding umbrellas.
Not at all. But Malika, ever resourceful, says, don't worry, I know exactly where to place one of those difficult young elephants.
Yeah.
Where it will stand quietly holding its umbrella.
Where? Who could possibly calm a fierce elephant just by being nearby?
Her answer is amazing. Place it near venerable Agulimala.
Agulimala, the one who used to be the bandit, the feared killer.
That's the one. Agulimala Thera, the elder monk, now completely transformed by the Buddha's teaching.
Wow. Okay, so does the king do it?
He does. He follows her advice. And this is where you see this tangible spiritual power at play.
What happens?
The young elephant, the one described as fierce and unruly, is placed near Agulimala. And it just stands there, perfectly calm.
Really?
The text describes it vividly. Tail tucked between its legs, ears down, eyes closed. A total transformation in its behavior just from proximity to Agulimala.
That's incredible. A miracle, really.
It certainly seemed that way to the crowd. Everyone watching this grand offering sees this notoriously difficult elephant behaving perfectly.
And they know whose presence is causing it.
Absolutely. The focus shifts, the murmurs starting, people are pointing, watching the elephant, attributing its calmness directly to Agulimalathera's spiritual power. It becomes this potent, public demonstration of inner peace.
Amazing. So after that incredible sight, the offering itself happens.
Yes. The king serves the Buddha and the Sangha this truly exquisite food, part of the whole elaborate setup.
And after the meal?
He makes the formal dedication. He makes it crystal clear. Everything in this offering hall, every single thing, even stuff that might technically be improper for monks normally because it's so luxurious, it's all given, unconditionally, to the Sangha.
The scale of it. Do we know the cost?
You do. The source explicitly mentions it. 140 million kudasakuidana.
140 million in a single day.
An absolute astronomical sum just poured into this one act of generosity.
And were there specific items highlighted?
Yes, 4 items given specifically to the Buddha are singled out as priceless. A Naganeva.
What were they?
The white umbrella held over him, his specific sitting cushion or seat, the stand for his bowl, and the footstool he used. Beyond monetary value.
So this whole event, the unique combination of royal elements.
Right, the elephants, the princesses, the sheer scale.
The king could never replicate it.
Never again, the text says. Not to the Buddha. That's precisely why it got the name Asadisadānavatthu, the unparalleled offering. Unique.
And the text notes it happens only once per Buddha.
Only once for each Buddha that arises in the world. A truly singular event.
And it's interesting, isn't it, that the text makes a point of saying a woman, Queen Malika, orchestrated the whole thing.
It really does highlight her role. Her strategy, her insight made this monumental offering possible. For the Buddha and all the monks, her ingenuity was key.
Okay, so the offering is made, the dedication happens, but the story isn't over, is it? There are these 2 ministers.
Yes. Kutta and Joyda. They were present watching all of this unfold.
And their reactions, they weren't the same.
Not even close. Polar opposites, actually. And this is where the story pivots, really, towards its deeper meaning.
Let's start with Kaya. What was he thinking?
Kaya, who the text calls the fool, Bala, his internal reaction is just pure negativity, dismay, criticism.
What's going through his head?
He's thinking, oh no, the royal family is ruined, 140 million, gone in one day.
He's focused entirely on the money.
Entirely. He thinks, these monks, they'll just eat this, go lie down, have a nap. Oh dear, the kingdom's wealth is destroyed. He sees zero merit, only material loss, and judges the monks harshly.
Okay, so that's Kaya. What about Juta, the other minister?
Juna is called the wise Duro, and his thoughts are completely different.
How so?
He's filled with appreciation. Genuine rejoicing. He thinks, wow, what an incredible offering from the king. Only a king could give something like this.
He sees the positive side.
Completely. He thinks everyone here is sharing in this merit just by being part of it or appreciating it. And his final thought is just full approval. As for me, I truly approve. This is wonderful.
Such a stark contrast in perspective.
Right. And same event, two totally different internal responses.
So after the meal, the king goes to the Buddha for the blessing, the Anumadana.
Yes. He takes the Buddha's bowl, which is the signal. And the Buddha, of course, with his deep insight, knows exactly what both Kata and Juna were just thinking. He considers giving the standard, long blessing, the kind that would be appropriate for such a massive, unparalleled offering. But he realizes the consequences in that specific assembly.
Consequences? What consequences?
The texts are quite dramatic here. They say if the Buddha gave the full, powerful blessing praising the offering, Kata's head would literally shatter into 7 pieces. Because the force of the blessing, the merit being acknowledged, would be in such intense opposition to Ko's own hateful, critical thoughts about the very same event. The negativity couldn't withstand it.
Wow. Okay. And Juta?
Jucha, on the other hand, whose mind was full of appreciation, he would instantly attain the fruit of stream entry Sotapadiphala.
Stream entry. The first stage of awakening. Guaranteed liberation eventually.
Exactly. Same blessing, opposite effects based entirely on their own mental states.
So what does the Buddha do? He knows this will happen.
Out of compassion, specifically for Ko, to prevent that terrible outcome. He chooses not to give the full blessing. He gives only a very short one, just a single 4-line verse. And then he simply gets up and leaves, heading back to the monastery.
Leaving the king probably quite confused.
Well, we get to that. But first, there's a little follow-up at the monastery.
Okay.
The monks are still talking about the elephant incident. You know, the fierce one calmed by Agulimala. So they go up to Agulimala Thera and ask him straight out, Venerable Sir, were you afraid? When that notoriously fierce young elephant was standing right there, holding the umbrella over you.
Good question. What did he say?
His answer was simple, direct. I was not afraid.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And the monks report this back to the Buddha.
They do. Maybe they were a bit surprised by his calm certainty or just wanted to share it.
And the Buddha's reaction.
He confirms it.
Yeah.
No, Agulimala is not afraid. He explains why. Monks like him, his true sons, who are like the best bulls among Arhat bulls.
Meaning those who've reached full liberation.
Exactly. Those who've extinguished all defilements, all fear, they are fearless. And then he recites a verse from the Brahma Volga section of the Dhammapada, actually.
What does it say?
It praises the true Brahmanya, not by birth, but by attainment. Someone who is brave, noble, a hero, a great sage, victorious, unwavering, pure, fully awakened.
So Agulimala embodies that. His calmness wasn't bravado, it was the result of his inner state.
Precisely. The elephant incident was just an outward manifestation of his inner liberation and fearlessness.
Okay, so while the monks are discussing this, what about the king? He got that very short blessing.
Right. He's back in the city, and he's really worried, deeply concerned.
Why? What's he thinking?
He interprets the short blessing negatively. He thinks, oh no, maybe my offering wasn't good enough. Did I include something improper? Is the Buddha angry with me? He's dismayed because the blessing didn't seem to match the sheer scale of his gift.
So he goes to see the Buddha.
He does. Goes to the monastery, bows respectfully, and basically asks, did I mess up? Was something wrong with my offering? Because the blessing, well, it didn't feel like it matched the gift.
And the Buddha?
The Buddha immediately puts his mind at ease about the offering itself. He says, no, great king, your offering was perfectly proper. It was indeed the Asadisadānavatthu, the unparalleled offering.
He confirms its value.
Absolutely. He repeats that it's unique, only happens once per Buddha, incredibly hard to achieve again.
But the king's still confused, right? If the offering was so great, why this short blessing?
Exactly. He asks again, essentially, okay, if it was perfect, why wasn't the blessing, bigger?
And now the Buddha gives the real reason.
Now he delivers the key explanation. He says it was because the assembly wasn't pure. Asadisadānavatthu.
The assembly wasn't pure, but how? It was the king, the Buddha himself, Arahant monks. What impurity could there be?
That's the crucial point the story is making. It wasn't about the external status of the people there, it was about the internal state.
Ah, the minister's thoughts.
Precisely. The Buddha reveals to the king what Kaya and Junka were thinking during the offering. He explains that Kana's resentment, his criticism that was the impurity in the assembly.
And that he held back the full blessing out of compassion?
Yes, compassion for Kaya, to save him from the consequence of his own negativity clashing with the blessing's power.
How does the king react to this revelation?
He understands instantly, and he acts very decisively.
What does he do?
First, he summons Kata. Asks him straight up, did you really think those negative thoughts?
And Ka admits it.
He confirms it's true.
Then what?
The king points out how illogical it was. I was giving my wealth. My family was involved. I didn't take anything from you. What harm was it to you?
Good point.
He says basically what's given is given. But then he banishes Kata, orders him to leave the kingdom immediately.
Wow. Swift judgment.
Very. Then he calls for Juta.
And asks him about his thoughts.
Yes. Did you have those positive, appreciative thoughts? And Juta confirms, yes, your majesty, I did.
And the king's reaction to Judah?
He's genuinely delighted, thrilled. The text says he calls him Uncle Matula affectionately.
Nice.
Says, I'm so pleased, pasanos me. And then he does something extraordinary.
What's that?
He tells Juta, take charge of my kingdom for 7 days, and you continue giving this offering exactly like I did.
He hands over the kingdom, temporarily.
Temporarily, yes. Hands over the rule and the responsibility for continuing the unparalleled offering for all week, just based on Junta's positive thoughts.
That's incredible, rewarding the positive mindset so directly.
It really shows how much the king valued that inner state once the Buddha revealed its importance.
So after dealing with the ministers, the king turns back to the Buddha.
Yes. He says something like, Venerable Sir, please see what a fool does. He attacked, he criticized, he tried to harm the merit of the offering I gave.
He's reflecting on Kata's actions.
Exactly. And this sets up the Buddha's final, summarizing teaching for the whole episode.
What does the Buddha say?
He agrees with the king. Yes, great king, fools. They really don't rejoice when others give. And because of that negativity, they're heading for unfortunate rebirths. It's a direct consequence.
But the wise.
But the wise, the Buddha continues, the wise person rejoices in the giving of others. And for that very reason, because of that appreciative mindset, they are bound for heavenly realms, happy outcomes.
So the core lesson is about our reaction to others' good deeds.
Absolutely. And then he recites the key verse, the one that really distills this teaching, which appears in texts like the Dhammapada.
Can you remind us of that verse?
Sure. It goes, Stingy people indeed do not go to the heavenly realm. Fools indeed do not praise giving. But the wise person, rejoicing in giving, for that reason, becomes happy in the other world.
Navia kadarya devaloka vajanti tauza yurihu.
Palahav na pasasantidano, dirokadana anumadomano.
Tanavasohoti suki paratati.
Right, exactly. And the source material even breaks down the key terms for us.
Oh, useful. What are the definitions?
Kadarya, the stingy, means tadamacharino, like hard-hearted with stinginess. Really resistant to letting go or appreciating generosity.
Okay. And bala, the fools.
Those who just don't get it. They don't understand the benefits of giving, the merit, either for this life or the next, lack of wisdom.
Makes sense. Dio, the wise.
Defined simply as a pandit, someone learned, someone who understands.
And the result for the wise Sukhiparata, happy in the other world.
The explanation is clear. That person finds happiness, even divine wealth, in the next life, specifically because of the merit they generated just by rejoicing in someone else's good deed. Numadana, sympathetic joy.
It's amazing how powerful just rejoicing is said to be.
It really highlights the mind's role. And the immediate proof, right at the end of this discourse from the Buddha, Juta, the minister who rejoiced, attains stream entry, Sotapadaphala. Right then and there.
Wow. The teaching directly led to his awakening.
It seems so. And the text adds that the teaching wasn't just for Juta and the king. It was beneficial for the whole crowd who heard it.
A widely impactful teaching.
Definitely. And Juta, now a stream enterer with this profound insight.
He carries out the king's command.
Faithfully. He continues the unparalleled offering for the full 7 days, just as the king had instructed, maintaining that spirit of generosity.
Wow, what a story. It just covers so much ground.
It really does. You start with this unbelievable, almost over-the-top external display.
Yeah, the elephants, the princesses, grinding perfume in gold boats, the 140 million.
Well, that
Yeah.
grandeur. And then the whole thing pivots, doesn't it? It shifts entirely to the inner world.
To show that how you react internally to that generosity is just as crucial, maybe even more so.
Exactly. The consequences are immense. It's a powerful lesson that spiritual benefit isn't just about the big actions we perform,
Uh-huh.
but also about the quality of our mind, our heart, when we see goodness, generosity, merit happening around us.
Kasawais saw loss, and the potential outcome was shattering his head, ultimately leading to banishment.
Well, Jusa saw merit, felt joy, and the result was stream entry and being entrusted with the kingdom. It's so stark.
That contrast really drives home the point, doesn't it? The destructiveness of envy or stinginess versus the liberating power of sympathetic joy, of appreciating others' goodness.
And, the Buddha's compassion in holding back the blessing is also quite striking, protecting Kai from his own negativity.
Yeah, that's a fascinating detail. And the Angulimala part.
It serves as this perfect illustration, doesn't it? The living proof of inner transformation. His calm power wasn't magic. It was the result of extinguishing those inner defilements the Buddha talks about. He is the fearless sage described in that verse.
So this story, the Asadisadāna, it masterfully weaves together material extravagance, royal pride and competition, tangible spiritual power.
And this critical teaching about our internal response, how we frame what we see,
It really gives you a lot to chew on.
definitely leaves us with things to consider.
And maybe that brings us to the final thought for you, the listener, to sort of mull over. This story really puts a mirror up to our own minds, doesn't it? When you see other people being generous or maybe succeeding, having good fortune, what's your first honest internal reaction? Is there sometimes that little pang of, I don't know, scarcity or judgment? Maybe leaning a bit towards Katha's mindset. Or do you feel genuine appreciation, a sense of shared joy in their success and their merit? Aligning more with Junta, it's worth asking, what does that quiet internal reaction tell you about the kind of mind state you might be cultivating day to day? Just something to explore on your own, perhaps.
That's a really valuable reflection to take away.
Okay, that wraps up this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.